Welcome to The Joy Perspective, the podcast where I share life's challenges, things I've learned through years of personal development, and help others shift their perspective and find their joy. I'm Lauren Valdez, and together we'll dive into how changing the way we think can unlock possibilities, spark creativity, and transform the everyday. Let's dive in. Welcome. Today, we are going to talk about rethinking timelines and expectations. And I'm going to start with a quick story that I'm going to read to you. Let's dive in. Ella and Jack sat across from each other at their favorite coffee shop, both lost in their own thoughts. Ella, 32, had just returned from a year-long backpacking trip across Europe. Her life was a canvas of spontaneity. No mortgage, no steady career yet, no wedding photos on the wall. She lived light and free. But part of her couldn't shake the nagging voice that whispered that she was falling behind. As she stirred her coffee, she glanced at Jack and thought, I wish I had what he has, a steady job, a home, a family, stability, purpose. Jack, 32 as well, sat opposite of her, freshly exhausted from a full work week. He had a successful job, a house in the suburbs, and a young family waiting for him at home. His life was mapped out neatly, milestones met, boxes checked. But as he watched Ella laugh about her random adventure in Portugal, he thought, I wish I had what she has. Freedom, adventure, the guts to chase experiences instead of responsibilities. Both smiled politely, nodding through each other's updates, but inside they were miles away, each longing for a life that wasn't theirs. The irony of this is that neither of them were truly wrong in how they lived, and neither of them were fully right either. Because in their quiet envy, they were missing the profound joy in their own journey. Ella couldn't see her open-ended freedom was a rare gift that many crave and few ever dare to choose. Jack couldn't see his life, though busy and full, was rich with love and meaning. The meaning that he had always dreamt about. They were so busy wishing for each other's timelines that they almost forgot their own was a miracle in progress. So why did I share that story? Well, it's two people sitting across from each other, sharing life's updates, and both wishing they had the others. You know, sometimes we get so overwhelmed with what is going on in other people's lives or where we think we should be in ours, that we actually lose the joy in our own journey. You know, in Ella's case, she chose to go on these backpacking trips. She chose to do these things. And it's a thing that many people wish they chose. Maybe to travel before they have kids. Or in Ella's case, she's longing to have what Jack had. Meet whatever society puts on us as timelines of when to be married and when to have a family and when to all of those things. But both of them are longing for what they don't have instead of enjoying what they have. So I want to talk about this idea of timelines because I know this is something that so many people struggle with, whether you're on Ella's side or Jack's side of this or somewhere in between all of it. There's always these expectations that we either put on ourselves or we let society put on us that we start to internalize. So let's start with this. What does it mean to be behind? And who gets to define that? Often we think about being behind as these like external benchmarks or these like career milestones, marriage, home ownership, life achievements. I don't know, for me, it was the like paying into my retirement. For me, that was a big one where I was like, I feel like I'm behind. You know, I should have been paying into this when I was 18, which financially probably a smarter thing, but I didn't start when I was 18. But who decides those timelines as the expectation for everyone? Well, society, right? A lot of our culture, a lot of our, pressures come from what everybody else thinks is the right timeline. And so, you know what, let's think about this. So they think you should graduate college by 22. You should be married by 30. You should have a career by 35. That is not the case for very many people. And it's not I mean, sure, it's the case for some people, but it's not the journey for everybody. So why is it we let these timelines kind of dictate how we live our lives? Those are based on individuals. Those are based on their dreams, their values, their circumstances. And all of our own circumstances and all of our own obstacles that we go through shape the journey that we're on. So when we kind of feel like we are behind, we should really work on reframing our comparisons into compassion for our own journey. In Ella and Jack's case, instead of them looking at the other one and wanting what that person has, they should be looking at theirs with this compassion for their own journey, for their own obstacles that they've overcome, for their own things that they have been able to achieve instead of wanting what somebody else has. And how do you do that? Well, sometimes it really is slowing down enough to just go, wow, look what I have been able to, whatever it is, whatever journey you have been on, that's somewhere where you can slow down and go, but I have done this and I have done that. And some of it, I will say, I have learned this, that some of it is we look at things and we're like, oh man, whatever. But the thing that we went through was learning for our future self, was learning in order to better ourselves. So when we look at things that we've done instead of doing what this perfect timeline of some people would be, look at the thing that you have gone through, or the thing that you have accomplished, or the thing that you maybe even failed at, as that was preparation for who you are now and who you're going to be in the future. Instead of looking at it as I'm behind, or I didn't do this, or I didn't accomplish that. Now let's talk about maybe your timeline is just slower. Maybe you're chiseling away at what you think your timeline should be, and it's just slower. Again, enjoy the journey that you're on. Slowing down and growing toward what you want is still growing toward what you want. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be an overnight success, or you meet someone at 20, you're married at 22, you buy a house at 27, and I don't know what timeline it is that's in your head, but what timeline are you placing on yourself that is negating all the growth and the journey that you're currently on? And when we start to identify some of those things, like what timeline I think that I should be on, you can start to reframe it and be like, but wait, I've also done this and I've done that, and I'm enjoying the journey that I'm on. Or maybe you're not enjoying the journey you're on, but you're growing through the journey you're on. You're becoming a better you. You're becoming a better whatever it is, parent, spouse, sibling. Maybe it's in your job that you're becoming better at. I want to ask a few questions to you guys that are listening. What brings me lasting fulfillment, not just momentary approval? Think about that. What is the lasting fulfillment, or what would bring you lasting fulfillment instead of momentarily being approved or momentary approval? Sometimes I think we make decisions based off of what we think other people want us to do. We do it out of approval rather than what would actually bring us that lasting fulfillment. Another question to think about is, what do I value more? Is it how fast I get there? Or is it how true to myself I am through that journey? That one's a hard one because I know I like to do things efficient. I like to do them fast. But when it really comes down to it, what do I value more? I value being true to myself, true to my family, stepping into what God has planned for me, rather than going a million miles per hour just to get to some destination and losing myself in that process or not enjoying that journey. Oftentimes we think like, oh, I'll just be happy when whatever it is, when I have the marriage and the house and the kids. But what about all that space in between? What about all that time in between? Enjoy that and be true to yourself during the process instead of just trying to meet someone else's timeline. And then this one is a really good one too to think about is, if no one was watching, if no one could see, what would you choose? What would you choose? I know, social media and society have put these things kind of in front of us constantly. People are posting their best images, their best life, if you will. Ella is posting her best pictures and videos from her backpacking trip in Portugal. Jack is posting his best family photos or best family videos on a beach or his work promotion. But behind all of that, if no one was watching, if it was just you being true to yourself, what would you choose to do? Think about that. And then what version of success actually feels right to you? I've had some friends who, said, we want to travel before we have kids. We want to experience X, Y, and Z before we have kids. And that is fantastic because that's what's right for them. And then I've had other friends who get married and are trying to have a child right after that because that's what feels right to them. And not one is right, not one is wrong, unless they're looking at the other and wanting what the other one had. You have to be true to yourself and you have to do what's right for you. All right, some quick reminders for those of us who fall into this timeline type of thinking where I'm not meeting the right timeline or I'm behind on the timeline. Okay, write these down if you can. If you're driving, listening to this, please don't write these down. But I am on my own timeline. You, yes, you listening, are on your own timeline. I, Lauren Valdez, am on my own timeline. Don't get caught up in other people's. Focus on your timeline. The next one is, my journey is unfolding exactly as it should. I also like to add, I'm learning on my journey exactly as I should. Because sometimes we want that finish line, we want that end line, but there's so much to learn and experience and live during the journey. Next one, there is no race to live a meaningful life. There's no race. It's all happening. Life is happening every day. Life is happening every moment. Make every moment meaningful. It's not a race. It's just life. I trust the pace of my becoming. I trust the pace of my becoming. The last one is, where I am today is preparing me for where I'm meant to go. This last one is a big one for me. My life word is perspective, hence the joy perspective. But this is it. Where I am today, even the obstacles that I've overcome, the failures I've had, difficulties, even the successes. All of those things and where I am today is preparing me for where I'm meant to go and who I'm meant to be. So I'm going to share with you guys real quick a book. It is called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. And I just want to read to you 2 quotes. I highly encourage the book, but 2 quotes. Here it is. Owning our story and loving others through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. I'm going to read that again. Owning our story and loving others through the process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. And the last one, let go of who you think you're supposed to be. Embrace who you are. This last one, let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are, is one of the central themes of this entire book. So if comparing yourself to other timelines or other expectations is something you struggle with, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown is definitely one that I would check out. I'm going to recap for us real quick. For those who do need the recap, think back to Ella and Jack. Both lived exceptional lives. Both lived the journey that was meant for them, but both longed for something different. Rethink timelines and expectations so that you no longer feel behind. You're not living up to the pressures of society, the pressures of whatever culture, whatever social media is telling you. Instead, dissolve those expectations by simply looking at your story is not a comparison. It's not a comparison. Your story is your story. Have compassion, have grace, have joy in your journey. And take time to recognize that slow growth is still growth. Even though it's maybe steps toward what you want, it's steps toward where you want. That is still growth. That is still your journey. And I'm going to read that last quote one more time from the book. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. Thank you for joining me today on The Joy Perspective. I hope this episode helped you shift your mindset and find a little bit more joy in your life. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss one. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Meet Lauren Valdez for more inspiration and updates. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Until next time, keep shifting your perspective and finding your joy.